I'd like to call to order the Middletown City Council meeting for April 4th, 2023. If we can start with a moment of meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
Ms. Nenny. Here. Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Muterspaw.
Here.
Mayor Condrey.
Here. Okay, this evening we're going to start with a presentation for the National Public Health Week proclamation. I feel like when I give proclamations, I usually go to the dais. I feel like it would be weird to sit here. So I'm going to go up there and give the proclamation. We don't have anyone from the Department of Health here today, but the job of the president of the Board of Health by de facto goes to the mayor. So I am the president of the Board of Health, so I will dual hat this evening, and I'm going to go up to the dais and give the proclamation for this week. It also happens to be fitting my aunt, who is a lifelong nurse. It's her birthday today, and so I said, I'm giving a National Public Health Week proclamation. She was excited. Okay, whereas April 3rd through the 9th, 2023 is National Public Health Week, and the theme is Centering and Celebrating Cultures in Health. Public health organizations use National Public Health Week to educate public policymakers and public health professionals on issues that are important to improving the health of people within our community and throughout the United States. And whereas many of the leading causes of death for individuals in our community and throughout the United States result from chronic conditions, which are among the most common, costly, and preventable of all health challenges. Violence is a leading cause of premature death, and it's estimated that more than 7 individuals per hour die at a violent death in the United States. And whereas over 45,000 lives are lost due to suicide in the United States. 1 in 7 children in the United States experience child abuse and neglect. And drug overdose deaths are prominent in our community and throughout the United States. Cigarette smoking is the leading cause of preventable disease and death in the United States, accounting for more than 480,000 deaths every year, including more than 41,000 deaths resulting from secondhand smoke. And whereas a person's health status can differ drastically by zip code due to differences in the built environment, environmental quality, community context, access to healthy food, access to education, and access to health care. Preventable risk factors such as physical inactivity, poor nutrition, tobacco use, and excessive alcohol use are leading to chronic causes of diseases. 6 out of 10 U.S. adults have a chronic disease. 4 in 10 have 2 or more. And chronic diseases cause 10 out of every 10 deaths annually in the United States. And whereas in our community and communities across the United States, individuals are changing the way they care for their health by avoiding tobacco use, eating healthier, and increasing physical activity. Public health professionals collaborate with partners outside of the health sector, including city planners, transportation officials, education officials, and private sector businesses, recognizing other sectors can influence health outcomes. Now, therefore, I, Nicole Condrey, Mayor of the City of Middletown, do hereby proclaim April 3rd through the 9th, 2023 as National Public Health Week 2023 in Middletown, and call upon the people of Middletown to observe this week by helping our families, friends, neighbors, co-workers, and leaders to better understand the value of public health and supporting great opportunities to adopt preventative lifestyle habits in light of this year's theme, Centering and Celebrating Cultures in Health. So it's my honor to present this week, and hopefully we can make a whole year out of celebrating public health. It's pretty cool that we have the Great Miami Riverway here in Middletown and a great park system to help us get out and just be healthier individuals. Okay, next we have on the agenda citizen comments. We have 1 citizen comment this evening. Ms. Kubar, if you can come up to the dais, and we have 4 minutes, and just state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Kelly Kuvar. My address is 2615 Worcester Place in town, of course. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Councilman Farrell, for your recent questions about the bus route in the around the Amanda neighborhood. I grew up in that neighborhood, and I've moved away from that neighborhood, but it still is part of me. That's an underserved population, to say the least. I think we can all agree with that. I just have one question, and that is, Mayor Condrey, why did you snicker when he brought that up? Additionally, I would like to state on the record that if the lawsuit Start Skydiving filed is resolved with an apology from the city, it will not be on my behalf. And former Councilwoman Vittori has asked that I mention that it is not on her behalf either. Thank you all. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have council comments. Mr. Muterspaw, would you like to start this evening?
Yes, thank you. Just a few quick things. Was out yesterday and today with my granddaughters in the parks, and it was great to see our city parks packed out. It was awesome. And to see that many people coming in, so it just gives us, validation of what we're investing into the parks, which is awesome. So really crowded. I was in several of them, and it was nice to see. Second, congrats to Brent's Barbecue on Central. They're moving to the Sunshine Cafe building. I should say the old Sunshine Cafe building. He posted about it, which is sad for downtown, but really good for that area. It's just good to have a bigger barbecue place there with that parking lot. So good for him. Last, I just wanted to kind of joke for a second, and to our city manager, Paul Ollie, every time I come to council, I have a Green Bay Packers are #1 note from Chief Burke. I was hoping you could get your guy on a leash, because we know the Green Bay Packers aren't #1. This is Cincinnati Bengal country, so take care of that for me if you would.
He'll be in my office first thing in the morning.
He's not here. I was going to give him grief, so thank you.
Mr. Boone.
Yes, I don't think I can top that. Just one announcement in case, I know sometimes these emails slip through, but if anybody's interested, the Warren County Municipal League dinner is on April 19th, and it will be the Warren County Convention and Visitors Bureau as the featured speaker, and it's at Hidden Valley. And hopefully here in a year or two, we'll have a major destination on that Warren County Visitors Bureau map here on the east end of town. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Ninney.
Yes, I have mentioned it in the past, but the 2023 spring tree giveaway that the city works with Keep Middletown Beautiful on is live. So they've posted links to the tree giveaway on our Facebook and social media, but you can also visit the city's website to find the 2023 spring tree giveaway. The registration opened on the 3rd, and I believe will go until all of the trees have been spoken for. These are trees that are, I believe, a $75 value that are free to our citizens. You have to be a resident of Middletown to apply, and they limit it to 1 tree per household. But I encourage anyone who's interested in planting more trees on your property and helping us with our Tree City designation to go to our website and sign up for a free tree. It's really cool. They try to keep track of all of the trees that are given away and where they end up and how they do. So you can also visit one of the pages to see what they've done in years past and the trees that have been successfully planted throughout our city. So thank you to our representative from Keep Middletown Beautiful and to our park board for continuing this program, and I encourage anyone to go out and check that out. I also just want to wish everyone a happy Easter, and I hope you have a wonderful and beautiful day on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we turn the gain down maybe on the council mics? I don't know if anyone else can hear the...
I thought maybe it was just me, since it didn't happen to anybody else.
It might just be your mic, but...
I think it is just your mic.
Mr. Farrell.
Yeah, 2 things. First off, congrats to Bill Edwards, the new men's head basketball coach for Middletown High School. It's exciting. He was a year older than me in high school, and then Austin Downing, who was a year younger than me in high school, is the head baseball coach. So it's exciting to see kind of the young guys and women kind of taking a new role in the city. So I'm excited for that. And then, what was the other thing I was going to mention? I guess that's all for now. Thanks.
Thank you. I was just going to mention that I believe that the public health survey is still live out there, so if you haven't taken that yet, take some time and fill that out. It gets at our National Public Health Week and how we can better serve our underserved aspect of zip codes in areas of our community, as well as figure out what health areas we want to focus on and everywhere across the city. So make sure you take that if you haven't taken it yet. That's all I have this evening. That brings us to city manager reports.
Good evening, council. Tonight, I want to, I'm excited to say we're going to have a presentation here to give you an update on our projects, and doing that is our special projects coordinator, Jerry Lewis, who started at the first of the year. And I think you're going to see we got some new and great and exciting things coming up here in the spring and the summer and the fall. So Jerry, if you would come on up.
All right, we're just gonna have a conversation because this makes me a nervous wreck talking in front of you guys, even though I know all of you. We're actually gonna focus on spring and summer. Lots of stuff going on. I hit the ground running. You guys know me, I don't waste time. We're gonna touch on many of the events that I'm personally planning, but then at the end, I'll talk a little bit about collaborating with other groups. These are just some of the ones I'll talk about tonight. I am really excited about this because I wanted to do this for a few years now, and now I get to. We have the food truck park, which will be over at Lefferson, and it's partnered with many different park activities and live music. A car group reached out. They're going to come and make it a thing to bring their classic cars. The library is going to join in and run a kid zone at every single one. We'll have live music for all of them except for one. We are going to do and partner it with a movie night. But that'll start April 14th, 4 to 8 p.m. Might go till 9 if everyone's having a lot of fun. And then that goes until September 15th. So we have over 50 food trucks that are going to rotate through those weeks and 10 music acoustic acts. So there will be live music as well. You can kind of see in the picture, I think we are going to move the food trucks in and around more of the circle area to make room for the kids to be dropped off from school. That far right, it's blocking where they normally get dropped off. So I'm excited about that. Earth Day, we talked about the tree giveaway. We're partnered, I'm partnered with Allie for that, as well as Keep Middletown Beautiful. We have extended, Allie and I and Doris got together this week, and we are extending at lunchtime. We're gonna do it here at the city building with tents, other groups that wanna come in and be part of it. So everything from our health department to, I think, Steve Lewis is going to do a tree pruning class, so that'll be kind of exciting. And we also have someone coming to do yoga with anyone that wants to participate. So I'm really excited about this partnership. Franklin had reached out to me and asked if we wanted to partner on this collaborative effort. The River Ride that starts in Franklin, ends in Middletown, or you can start in Middletown and end in Franklin. There is a post on social media with a QR code that you can get more information and sign up to be part of that ride, but we're excited about that. The first 100 participants get a gift bag with lots of goodies from both cities showing partnership there, so I'm really excited about that. This is also something by the way, I'm excited about all of this, so if I say that a little too much, I'm excited. The Hometown Heroes banner program, it closed on April 1st, and we have a little over 100 banners that are going to line Central Avenue, and we have extended it to Main Street. So I'm extremely excited about that. And it'll go along Main Street, which is where we come out of Smith Park down to Main Street and turn left. And we'll talk a little bit about the parade routes changing a little bit. So here for Memorial Day, nothing different about Memorial Day. I do want to announce that we have named John Kahn, he was a sergeant in the Army, as our main person for that day, and nothing's changing for that. It's the same as every year, the same route and everything for Memorial Day. We start at Smith, we end at Woodside with a ceremony. If you've never come to the ceremony at Woodside, it's actually very beautiful. We have music, we have presenters and speakers, and we have the honor guard that does a really great show as well. So come out for that. That's the Grand Marshal. Movies in the park. This is something I'm excited that I get to fold into this position. Anyone that knows me knows I started this 7 years ago here in the city as a way to just get the community out into our parks. We rotate it and do every other Friday that the food truck park's not happening, we'll have a movie night starting in June and extending until July 28th. And these are the movies that are selected. Now with each of the movies, we rotate parks and movies, but we're also adding a food truck to each movie night this year, which that's new. Churches and nonprofit groups come out and they volunteer to interact with families and do activities. So like for Goonies, we're doing a treasure hunt before the movie. With the Princess and the Frog, we're doing a Disney princess from the movie will actually be there interacting and doing a song and music and stuff with the kids. I'm super excited about that. Top Gun will be at Smith Park. We have the Warbirds coming and doing a presentation, and we're going to have a contest of paper airplane station where we're throwing airplanes and seeing who wins. And then Sonic 2, we're going to do some relays and stuff like that with some really fun little trophies at the end. And then in downtown, we have the movie Soul. It's all about music and back to school. So we are going to have local artists come out and bring many different instruments where the kids can actually pick up the instruments and interact with them and play with them and ask questions and that kind of stuff. Midpoint Library will also be partnered on this as well. They're going to come to as many of these as they can with books, with crafts, and interactive type stuff as well. Reading is a big thing for me, and so as much as we can plug them into different family events, I think that's going to be important. Farmers Market. This is also very exciting. For the Farmers Market, we're starting that in June. Some people were asking about the location. The location was determined by the vendors. We have some vendors that have multiple trucks. We have a meat vendor that's coming in with a big refrigerated truck, 2 refrigerated trucks. And so they needed plenty of space. And in researching other cities, a lot of them are connected or close to the library in peripheral vision. So this just seemed like a really good location for that and talking with the different vendors. We're going to have live food vendor demos. So one group or chef from a local restaurant can come out and make salsa and give free samples out and promote their restaurant or whatever they want to do using that produce or the different food samples that'll be there. We're going to have a petting zoo rotated. Metro Parks is involved, and they're going to come and do some education stuff, which is exciting. And engagement of the kids and families, again, we're going to have rotate Metro Parks with the library, so every other will be rotated. 4th of July parade. The theme this year is American Dreamin'. You can kind of take that for what it's worth and interpret that. We're going to do trophies this year, but the most exciting thing about this is we are taking the parade route back to the original parade route from when Middletown was founded and started parades. It's a great opportunity for us to showcase how beautiful Central is going to be. So we'll come out of Smith Park down to Main Street and then turn left on Central, follow Central all the way down to Charles Street, and if they're not going to compete for one of the trophies, they can continue home, or they can turn left and park behind the AutoZone, I believe that's what's there. Another fun thing that we're going to be doing to start both parades off is 1943 and a PT-19, the 1941 Defender. The Butler County Warbirds are going to be starting the parades off for both of them, with both of those planes doing overflies. So that's kind of exciting. They can't come too low, but they'll do is what they're allowed to do. So. Burger Week. So this came about with a conversation with Nelson from Primo Middletown. He was telling me about Burger Week that they do in Cincinnati, and he said it started years ago at $5 a burger, and I thought, that seems really cheap. And he said, well, I think it's $7 now, and it's with a particular magazine. We're too late this year to do it with the magazine, but I thought, let's still do it. So we're gonna do $7 to $10 time frame, or price range, sorry. And hopefully get some people traveling here to make a fun week out of that. The prices seem cheap, and they are cheap, but the point is, he said people will come, they'll buy a burger, but they'll buy wine, they'll buy other foods and other things and items, but they're here, and maybe they've never been here before, so it's a great way to attract and bring people in. He said they show up with burger hats and everything on, so I'm excited and hope somebody will do that, Rodney. So let's do a burger hat. Okay.
You can get two now for $7.
The look on his face says he's already got one.
Oh, boy.
Monica.
The other piece about Burger Week, too, is if they finish and have 7 burgers in 7 days, they will get a T-shirt at the end that said they completed Burger Week. So that's kind of exciting stuff there, too. And
Does that mean he's going to get a shirt, right?
he'll get a shirt and get to wear his hat with the shirt. So
This week.
You got your time up.
almost done. Collaboration. These are events that I'm not planning necessarily, but I am kind of collaborating in the sense that just making myself available for different resources. Perfect example, Ohio Challenge, working with them. They asked me what was some trendy stuff happening, and I told them, not thinking they would take me up on this, a photo 360 booth. So we're going to do a photo 360 booth at Ohio Challenge and actually try to plug it into the Livetron that's up there, so you could watch people doing that for the 3 hours each day that they're doing it. So that'll be kind of fun. All the rest of this stuff, Taste of Middletown is partnered with Port Middletown, which seemed like a natural marry, and that'll have any and all restaurants that want to participate and come be part of Taste of Middletown. They can have a restaurant or they can have a food truck. They just have to be from Middletown to participate. So lots of good stuff. Any questions or concerns?
Fun.
Yeah, this is impressive.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I feel like we're starting to bring back what I heard Middletown had in the past, which were events that were well attended and added to the quality of life in our city. So thank you for your work.
No
I
problem.
love the veteran, what's the word I want to say?
The flags.
The banners.
The banner.
The banners, that's awesome.
It got
Yeah,
really
that's-
popular really fast.
It did. We figured on what, 30 or so
30, maybe 40.
banners, and now we're over 100. We had to go down Main Street, and it's incredible the response.
I've worked
We got-
with Scott Tadish on placement and stuff, and he's a lot of fun to work with, so, yeah.
Now, in lieu of a formal recreation department, the kind of work that you're doing here really is something that engages the citizens, engages young people, and gets them out into our parks and into our public spaces to really enjoy this city. So I just appreciate all of your hard work on that.
Thank you.
Somebody once told me that cities shouldn't be involved in getting shiny objects or doing shiny objects, but shiny objects is how you keep people here and get people to come here. So these are awesome, really, really cool. You did great.
I think this is my heart for sure, getting kids and families in parks, and that's what it's about, so. We're good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have for city manager's report.
Okay. Amy, are you ready to present the consent agenda for us?
For your consideration this evening, we have to approve the city council minutes from February the 21st and March the 7th, 2023, to receive and file the historic commission minutes from January the 19th and February the 16th, 2023, to confirm the personnel appointments of Jake Berger and Jared Haley to the position of firefighter paramedic in the Department of Public Safety, Division of Fire, and Benjamin Westfall to the position of senior account clerk in the Department of Finance, Division of Tax, to confirm the promotional appointments of Dustin Alcorn to the position of equipment operator in the Department of Public Works and Utilities, Division of Stormwater Maintenance, and Jordan Pergram to the position of equipment operator in the Department of Public Works and Utilities, Division of Street Maintenance, to receive and file oaths of office for Zayden Duggins, Caleb Idle, and Penny Jewell. To authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Oberson's Nursery for the maintenance and enhancement of landscaping and stormwater control measures at Sunset Park in an amount not to exceed $49,000, and to approve the ASME rate of pay for the building cleaner.
I would like to move that the matters listed under the consent agenda be considered routine and enacted by one motion and one vote of consent.
Second.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muerspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
On the motion agenda to approve a contract with the Tri-Health Corporate Health of Cincinnati, Ohio in the amount of $112,900 a year for healthcare services plus after-hours, registered nurse coverage, actual pharmacy, and medical supply costs for 2023. The total contract price is $117,400.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muerspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
To approve the purchase of one 2024 International HV 507 SFA cab truck and chassis from Rush Truck Centers of Cincinnati, Ohio, in the amount of $103,835.38 for the Water Distribution Division.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Muerspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
And to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract not to exceed $69,221.49 with Greeley and Hanson to conduct preliminary engineering for the aeration improvements project.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muerspaw?
Yes.
Mr. Yoder, you ready for legislation?
Yes, and I thought we were so close to having no emergency legislation on the agenda, but with the last-minute addition, that means you've got 11 items on your agenda. The last one, item 11, is proposed for passage as an emergency measure on one reading.
I think no,
The first one is also-
Item number 1 is.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I did miss that one as well. It was wishful thinking perhaps on my
We had
part.
read that before.
Yeah. So before we get started then, I'll just ask for a motion for both the first and the 11th item to be passed to waive the charter provisions for effective legislation in first readings.
I would move that ordinance number O 2023-20 and ordinance number O 2023-29 be considered an emergency measure, read one time only, and that the time for passage, there used to be a script down here.
You're great, so long as it's a motion to waive the charter provisions pertaining to the
To waive the
effective
charter
dates.
provision for
second
30
readings.
days and a second reading.
You're great.
I'll replace the script.
Second.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muerspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
I never needed
All right, so first item is ordinance number O 2023-20, an ordinance accepting the material terms of the One Ohio Political Subdivision Settlement on behalf of the City of Middletown in accordance with the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding in the terms of the July 21st, 2021 National Opioid Settlement Agreement with respect to national opioid settlements involving Teva, Allergan, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart, and declaring an emergency. This is a second reading emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Mr. Lawley, did you
I have
anything
nothing
to
further
add?
to add other than emergency due to the fact that we need to get these settlement documents in prior to April 18th.
Any comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muerspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Second item is ordinance number O 2023-21, an ordinance changing the zoning classification for three parcels known as Warren County parcel numbers 083330200092, 083330000511, and 0833302011 from BC-H, which is the Business Health Center Hub Subdistrict, to PD, Planned Development District, and approving preliminary development plan. Second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second.
I have no further comments. This is for the Middletown Event Center.
Any other comments or questions from council? An exciting one. Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ordinance number O 2023-22 is an ordinance approving the revised final development plan for the Arbor Point subdivision. Again, a second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Once again, no further discussion from last week.
This one was just the slight movement of the property line.
Yeah, this is to allow that parcel for the garage to be put as a side entry.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Abstain.
Fourth item is ordinance number O 2023-23, an ordinance authorizing a grant agreement with the Sorg Opera Revitalization Group, Inc. for the acceptance of American Rescue Plan Act funds. Second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Nothing further to add, just to, this is, if you recall, to expend the money for the Sorg Opera ARPA monies.
Any comments or questions from council?
I'd just say that the board's done a great job bringing a ton of energy and kind of bringing some of that building back to its original glory. So just appreciate the board and everything they've done and look forward to decades more of great shows. So Larry, please share that with the rest of the board.
Yeah, I spoke with several people who attended the Elvis show over the weekend to an almost sold-out crowd. So I always love to hear when they've got acts that come in and they sell out that venue, and look forward to them being able to offer even more seating in the Sorg, and just continue their good work.
Just to add to that, thank you for coming, Mr. Mulligan. It's good for our city. I mean, it's good for every small business and restaurant down in that area, because when they pack out, which they do, the restaurants and the businesses pack out. So it's good for everybody, so thank you.
I did have a slight heart attack today. I called Paul. I said, there's smoke coming out of the second floor of the Sorg.
Oh, no.
He said, they're training. It was fake smoke. Yeah, so
I think.
I think, yeah. I was very
And
grateful
I looked out the
because
window.
there's a lot of great work still to be had in that building. And
Is that in the commercial building or the
Yeah, it's in the
actual Sorg
commercial
building?
side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they use that property on occasion for
Quite
training
frequently.
purposes?
Yes.
the ladder truck was sitting outside, but no one looked to be in an emergency situation, and I was wondering if someone fell asleep. I wasn't sure what happened, but I was glad to hear it was training. I'm sure they did a great job. The smoke's no longer pluming out the windows. Thank you again for all you guys do.
And it's fake smoke. It's not real. We don't light fires in there, in case you were wondering. It's done by a smoke generation machine, so it's not real smoke.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, just in case. Why are they starting fires in there?
Any other comments or questions about this legislation? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Fifth item is ordinance O 2023-24, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to extend the memorandum of understanding with One City for Recovery. A second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Nothing
Thank
further
you.
to add.
Any further comments or questions from council? I'm glad to see the results of a lot of the work on this contract, and it seems to be well worth our money, and grateful for everybody who's been involved. Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Sixth item is ordinance number O 2023-25, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing an extension of the contract with NFP Corporate Services to be agent of record for healthcare services through July 31st, 2024. Second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Nothing further to add. If you recall, this is for the management of our employee health insurance program.
Any comments or questions from council? Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
I have a quick question. Who seconded that? Thank you. sorry. Yes, Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muerspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Seventh item is resolution number R 2023-08, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Middletown, counties of Butler and Warren, state of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency. This comes out of the Community Development Act 1974 Fund. No actions requested until the April 18th, 2023 meeting.
Mr. Lawley.
Council, this is a situation to kind of clean up our budget. It is using funds in the CDBG from past years, moving them into 2023 so we can spend those funds in the designated areas you see in front of you.
So are these projects we had already approved through a previous CDBG? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Any other comments or questions from council? Okay, we're ready for the next.
Great. Number 8, resolution number R 2023-09, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Middletown, counties of Butler and Warren, state of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency. This is the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 fund, and no action again is requested until April 18th.
Mr. Lawley.
Council, if you recall, at the work session, we allotted some of the funds from the ARPA fund to be able to move into our community events and recreation programming.
So this is for Rodney's hat?
I'm sorry.
This is for Rodney's hat?
Yes.
Appreciate that. I do.
It seems like it's well worth our money. I feel like we're getting a bargain on
Take it.
the community events, so
Well, it depends on how many clicks he gets.
oh, well, yeah. Okay, I think we're ready for the next item before we get too far off track.
Item 9 is ordinance number O 2023-27, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a small business grant agreement with S&M Global Investments LLC. On first reading.
Mr. Lawley.
Council, this is to appropriate $15,000 for the small business grant for the franchise coming in to operate the Big B Coffee at 3593 South Dixie Highway.
I had a few questions. I know I sent on Friday. I haven't heard anything back, so I'm just going to say them here. Maybe we can discuss them. My question to staff was if they feel like this project is not going to occur without the $15,000 grant. Is it contingent essentially upon this grant, or they're looking at nearly a $500,000 investment, which blows my mind.
$250,000?
No, a 400 some.
Oh, no, I see.
thousand,
Okay, yes,
yeah.
425. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is our 15 grand, I'm just looking at how much that could mean to potentially other small businesses in Middletown, and if it's really needed in this case for this project, and what kind of an impact it would have on this particular business. But then going along with that, I also don't know, what other small business grants have been received by the city, so I'm not sure what's even, what's competing with this one. And I also wasn't sure like how many jobs would be created with this. I didn't see any of those numbers, and at what salary or hourly rate. And then also, as we had talked about with restaurant grants, if this money would be tied to a lien on equipment, because that was a request of council's, and I didn't see that in here as well. I'm also just not sure a national franchise, and I know it's a franchise, so it's owned by a smaller business. But in this case, Big B will receive a cut of I looked at how their business model runs. They're not receiving a cut? Of royalties. Right. So but the business model is such that there is some money at some point going back to Big B. I just wanted to have the discussion with council because we really haven't. It's the first time anything's come up like this where it's a franchise, and it seems like a lot of money for a small business grant, which I get if they're really going to be putting that much money in. I'm grateful that they're spending that in Middletown. I just don't know what is not getting approved as a result of this one, and is it worth $15,000 of our small business grants to go into this one? So I don't know if anyone's really thought about it a whole lot yet. It's a first reading. This is the time where we can
I
have
was
those
just curious how many
discussions.
applications we've gotten for the business grant, so that kind of segues into that. That was the only question I had.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we have one other grant pending, and we're in preliminary discussions with I believe, a second party.
Is this, are we on a rolling grant? So there's no deadlines and quotas and
that's
all of
correct.
that at this point? We do have a set amount of money set aside though, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. And what are the qualifications? I just don't know is that put out there right now as to who qualifies and? 'Cause
Yes.
I'm kind of surprised we haven't
When we
had more.
revamped the program, we had the presentation where we went through with council what all the qualifications would be to apply and receive the grant.
Okay, and that's on economic development's page, is that,
Yeah, it should be, yeah.
okay.
If
I had,
it's not, we'll
had
fix it.
kind of a two-part question, and I read the contract and I forgot to print it, and I'm kind of losing track. But when does the money go out? Is this kind of like a last dollar in, or is this a first dollar in?
This is on a reimbursement basis
Okay.
upon such time as the business has provided all the
Okay.
documentation of what has been spent to make sure it's applicable under the grant guidelines, and that they have received all of their necessary zoning approvals and their certificate of occupancy.
So I was going to ask about a clawback, but I guess if it's last dollar in, we've
Yeah.
seen the receipts and they've spent the money.
Yeah, that's how we've structured it.
I guess my thought process is that that strip there, for lack of a better term, kind of, it's always sort of had an issue filling out. And the exciting part about this is they want a decent amount of space that would fill it out, and they would be adding a drive-through. So let's say that this, if Bigby would ever leave, that property then becomes a little bit more valuable to, yes, the owner, but also it's going to be, we would have an easier time getting somebody in there to fill that strip out. And I mean, it is, if you break down the numbers, we're essentially giving 3 to 4% to the total cost of build out. So there's a lot of companies that I would be, at least myself, be willing to have the conversation if we can invest 3 to 4% of a small business loan for you guys to come in and bring jobs and that kind of thing. And I mean, it is something that in my mind, you read in the papers and it's like, okay, Middletown's getting a Big B coffee. I mean, you can't put a dollar amount on that, but it does change the mindset of what Middletown looks like from an outside. So I'm not saying that that makes it correct or right, but that's just sort of the proponent, I guess, to the opponent of how to look at this. Just my thoughts.
Just a clarification on the space. I think that strip has 2 empty spots on the end. Are they taking one, or are they taking both? Because you said it was kind of a big space. Do you?
Yeah, is it where the rapid fire pizza is, or is
No,
it
it's
the
at the
other
other
end?
No, it's
Other
down.
end?
Down.
It's where Hot Head was.
So which
So it
space
would-
did you say it was?
It's the end.
Where the
it's
ortho sport,
opposite.
where ortho
Where
sport.
Ortho Sport was
Okay.
before.
Yeah, not
So-
Hothead.
And not Time Warner. Or maybe Time Warner was in there.
So it's adding
Time Warner's been gone for
a
years.
new drive-through lane,
That is
in
correct.
addition
Right.
to the one that Rapid Fire also operates.
Right.
Has anybody
On the other
looked at the
side.
traffic flow? Because that just seems like it seems like a terrible in and out for a drive-through. Left turn, into then only like a 2-car space for them to get back out onto the road.
Well, if they actually use
Well,
the
off the
light
highway,
they're
you take the
supposed
right
to,
turn and then the
it wouldn't be an
left.
issue, but one of those things. I don't disagree.
I don't know, I haven't seen the plan, so
No, I agree with what you're saying. Like, I cut out of there at times too, which I think is technically somewhat illegal. But if you go up to the light, not illegal, I don't know the right word for it, but anyways, let's move on.
moving
But
on.
if you go up to the light and use the light, you're
Ben,
You're
earmuffs.
fine. Right, if you go down to where Sonic's is,
right.
you're fine getting
That's
in
what I
and
was
out.
saying. Yep. hmm
That's what a lot of people end up doing.
Before I was on
Go down
council
to
is
the
what I meant. Yeah.
My office is right there. We're right down there from Sonic in the plaza, Woodland Plaza, and it can be a pain, but it's workable, I guess, you know? So,
And I would say there's not really, I mean, so we do have a coffee shop that's closer to the highway, so this would be a little bit further away than that one, and I believe
the other
they
one's
are.
by El Rancho.
I'd like to think this is the first of hopefully many businesses that are going to come to Middletown because they're seeing a big investment out there and a lot more traffic. But maybe they were coming anyway.
I'm shocked we don't have more small business applications for grants, because I feel like I hear from a lot of small business owners, oh, the city won't help me. Come and ask.
ask. The word's out there.
Yeah, well, we really do want to help. We just want to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and we're supporting things that are.
Well, I think that being said, that this is an open call to all small businesses in Middletown, whether
Yeah.
you are looking to locate in Middletown or you're already located here, that there is assistance available and it's currently being underutilized. Contact the city of Middletown and let them know what your needs are and see if they can meet those needs or help you get to where you need to go.
That being said, I would like to see this grant tied to a lien on equipment like we previously agreed to. I don't know why it's not currently that way, but if, for example, they go in and all of a sudden traffic flow really is that bad and they close within a few months, I think that was the goal. Maybe we also had something else in there about infrastructure and supporting infrastructure, and that might fall under that one. I just want to look at what we
I
agreed.
think the addition
Did
of
we
that
say-
drive-through does.
So didn't we say
add
something
value
about
to
signage too, that that's an option? So I'm sure they're gonna use a lot of that. I mean, technically, I guess you could incorporate the drive-through into signage.
Yeah.
Not that I'm sticking up for them, but I guess that's probably their way.
Yeah, there's a couple things here maybe to unpack is that, and there may be some commingling of some recent projects. So we have looked in terms of like, for the Primo Middletown endeavor there, that was a forgiveness loan offer that was tied to a UCC filing on some fixtures and equipment and the like and a lien. This current grant program as it's in place now is on a reimbursement basis for improvements and applicable related costs to building improvements that at the end of the day, as much as anything, we had this discussion many moons ago, is that, reality is as much as we cheer for all of our small businesses, some of them come, some of them go over time. But the investment the council said, was worthwhile and it was long lasting was to assist in those improvements that make those properties, those spaces more marketable, not only for the existing new user or growing user, but also future tenants. So our focus is currently on facility upgrades and improvements that bring things more into compliance. What we see a lot in the downtown area and other parts of town is fire alarms and sprinkler systems. Those are really low-hanging fruit items for folks to utilize these grants on. ADA accessibility, both for ingress and egress into buildings, also for restroom facilities and the like. And we also allow a lesser reimbursement percentage on the related soft costs, like hiring an architect or an engineer to get your building plans through and the like. We do set aside and do not have as eligible signage, just because signage can come and go, and if that's just something that's kind of doesn't necessarily always stay with the building or the next tenant, obviously. So that's kind of been the focus. And I think as we go, from a staff perspective, we see these types of programs as an iterative process, and we encounter things that we maybe don't expect or things that surprise us, and that's kind of an ongoing conversation policy-wise with staff and council as we evaluate the efficacy of these programs as well. What type of return on investment is the city seeing year after year with these endeavors?
Any other comments or questions? Okay, ready to move on.
All right, item 10 is ordinance number 2023-28, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Burgess & Nyepel, Inc. to act as the VAP manager for the demolition of the Middletown paperboard site. A first reading.
Mr. Lawley.
This is number 10, right?
Correct.
I changed, okay. Go ahead. So, council, this legislative item number 10 essentially gets the ball rolling with the demolition of the Middletown paperboard site. This allows the city manager to enter into contact with Burgess & Nyepel for the voluntary action plan and preparing plans and specifications to remediate the site. So Burgess & Nyepel will perform due diligence work to prepare the site to be cleaned up in accordance with the Ohio VAP, which includes an updated Phase 1 assessment and a Phase 2 assessment to assist with the building the bidding process, for RFPs for the remediation demolition with contractors, as well as grant some administrative services, and this is in the amount of $442,500.
Mr. Lawley, maybe I'm getting too far ahead of ourselves, but after this is completely cleaned and demolished, do we have any idea what restrictions, if any, will be on the land as far as redevelopment?
That's what we'll find out.
Okay.
Did I, Tom? Is that a good answer? Yeah, I don't want to, that'd be a hard
Yeah.
to say,
No at the end.
we could put this there, we're going to be able to put that there until we have the information back from these phase 1 and phase 2 studies.
Okay. He said probably not going to be residential.
Hopefully we can find a good, very productive use for it. That's a
Yes.
great gateway into our city and something that we can look forward to in the future to have it redeveloped in some fashion.
I'm going to ask the question everybody hates. What's a realistic timeline at this point on the whole process of,
Tom, can you
just for an update, because literally
Come on
people
up.
ask me all the
come on
time.
up? I tried to save you.
He got a purple midi tie on and all. We appreciate that.
You wore a tie for a reason tonight, Tom. Come on.
This is Tom Missionary from Burgess and Nyepel, who agreed to be here tonight to answer any questions that you may have. And we said, well, let's see what we have. And
Oh, well, look at this.
The G is silent, it's Minery, just for Mr. Lawley's purposes. So the question is a good question, and the real answer is it's going to be dependent upon our ability to work with a contractor and find out what's underneath the concrete. If we find that there are impacts to soil and to groundwater, that's a little bit more, it's going to take us a little bit more time to address that and assess that. I think it's fair to say that you're not going to, at the end of the day, the city is going to want what's known, oh golly, I haven't seen this yet.
Please don't explain all that. Make it simple, please.
At the end of the day, you will want a covenant not to sue. That's issued by the Director of Ohio EPA, and it's a covenant that's entered into the deed in perpetuity. And that covenant is going to identify to the city that you're not going to be held for any additional cost or addressing contamination that could be found later. We're going to investigate the heck out of this site. So my point in this is, from the beginning to the end, to get a covenant not to sue, you're probably looking at a 2-year minimum. We have a site that's going to be, I know that sounds like a long time, Councilman, but I can tell you that I've been doing this for 36 years, and to get through that process and to work with Ohio EPA, we might be able to do it in a year and a half, but I just want to be clear with you, it's not going to be done in 2023.
Okay. So to get the covenant not to sue is 2 years, and then we still have to take it down after that?
No, we're going to take it down. As
yes,
soon as
we have to have this done by December 31st of 2026.
But that will be, Paul's correct, we do have to get that done first.
Okay.
Now, would that process have been any longer or shorter had there not been a fire? How does the fire affect?
That's a really
the
good question,
timeline?
Councilwoman, Vice Mayor, sorry. That is a really good question. It didn't make it easier, let's put it that way. We now have a site that's a lot of concrete. For those of you who have been to the site, I'm sure you've seen it sometimes on a daily basis. We have material on the property that is mixed with asbestos-containing material. And some of that came about as part of the fire. So the cost certainly didn't come down. My point, though, is that there's an awful lot of material that has to be sent to a special landfill to take what's known as ACM, asbestos-containing material. So it's, I'm not going to blame the fire, but it didn't help, if that makes sense. It's still going to take a year and a half, Councilman and Councilman.
And most of that because of the asbestos and the contamination
Yeah,
of the
and
asbestos.
in fact, even though we're not under contract, I've been thinking about this site. I'm a fellow Butler Countyan by birth, so the site's important to me as well. But I think we might phase it in 2 separate phases. Before we do our soil borings, and it's unsafe right now. In certain areas, we can't get underneath that roof to take soil samples until that roof is gone. So just to let you know, I think we're going to phase this in two pieces. One is we're going to get rid of the concrete, get rid of the structures, get rid of the asbestos-containing material. So then we now have more of an open site to go back and collect our samples in a safe condition. The other thing that does is it puts forth on a first order business of getting that building down. There's issues with that building, I think, as we all understand, with regards to potential vagrants. There's no potential with regards to vagrants. And plus, we have a neighborhood in close proximity. So let's get the building down. It solves a couple different purposes.
And then what's, and I missed this, or maybe you said it, but what was the timeline on when we can figure out what we can actually do with it long term? Is that, or we're not going to know that until the very end?
Yes, but I think it's safe to say that we based our cost estimates for remediation on a commercial industrial property.
Okay.
We're not basing this on having little Johnny and Susie play in the soils over on this site. So we are going to have a restriction, go back, I can't remember who asked the question, we are going to have restrictions on this property. And it's going to be limited to commercial, industrial, no, pardon me, residential will be prohibited. If we get lucky and we have soil that meets the standard, great. My experience is that I think you should be prepared that it's going to be a commercial industrial property.
And to clarify the meaning of industrial, it doesn't necessarily, light industrial is something that we've discussed a lot on council and with the previous city manager and different iterations of the master plan and the comprehensive plan, that we're by no means, when we say industrial, suggesting that there should be semi-trucks coming in and out of what will eventually be redeveloped on this property. Industrial can have a lot of meanings, and I just wanted to make some clarifications for the public, that doesn't necessarily mean semi-trucks.
I'm going to stand down.
That's not, I mean, that's more for staff, but just as a
Zoning,
comment.
That's something I guess I
yeah.
can't. But under Ohio EPA standards, industrial has a pretty wide berth
Right.
in terms of what it could mean.
I know
You
that.
said 2 years. The shock on our face wasn't to you. I just make that clear. It's not saying it's because this burnt down over 3 years ago, and that puts it at 5 years. So I think that's what the shock we had on our face, what I had.
Well, let's be clear. As the administration, Paul has said, and Ashley and the administration has said, let's get the building down. And that has multiple meanings. Get the building down so we can really further this work and get moving and to get through that whole process.
Yeah, I don't think it's nobody's fault. I mean, we just didn't have the money until we got the money from the county.
Understood, sir.
So it was kind of, we were stuck, but man, that's a long time.
On that note, I'm hearing, of course, continued safety concerns about the site, which makes me wonder whether we should be doing this as emergency legislation to get this going, because we're now, next meeting, 30 days to enactment. I'd rather get this moving if we can personally, if that's even a possibility.
Even just to save a month and a half.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think quite literally, correct me if I'm wrong, but we debated whether or not to put it on as a first reading emergency.
Yeah,
and we
which
thought
I know
council
we're
might not
sensitive
want it that way.
to
We can change that
emergencies.
if you want to.
But having had this discussion, I think that's something to consider.
to me, safety is an emergency. Like when we're talking about safety issues, I want to act as quickly as possible. I know you're laughing like, oh, Roar, you complain about emergencies, which I appreciate the, caution on not doing it, but I'm just raising it with council. If you have the appetite for it, I would personally be supportive in this case.
If we know we're going to do it, why not?
I certainly have the appetite and would be,
As long
get
as
it rolling.
moves it along, and it sounds like it would help, so, yeah.
And I also want to clarify, Mayor, that, and as well as you councils, that it's not going to take 2 years to bring the building down. Okay.
Years for total completion.
how long to bring the building down?
Oh, why'd you ask that?
What, you're the one that brought it up?
No, it's going to be dependent upon our ability to go ahead and put together plans and specs. We're doing this right now up in Sydney, Ohio. We're doing this in a number of different places, so let's not kid each other. We're going to be able to put this forth pretty quick.
Before the winter?
Maybe.
Okay.
I
That's when that building becomes a big safety concern, certainly with the reason it burned down in the first place, being considered.
That was on
so
January 1st, is that correct?
It was.
January
yep,
1st.
New Year's Day.
I don't know who the fire chief was then, but we need to talk to that guy. I think his name was Snively.
Are you prepared, if we were to make an emergency legislation item out of it, to be able to start the process sooner than originally planned?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Obviously, that provides us with several weeks.
And so, Mr. Lawley, just to confirm that because I've heard a couple, obviously this has gone back and forth, but the amount we were allotted from Butler County Commissioners, everything is covered under all of this?
The answer to that is yes. I mean, could it cost more than $3 million? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Another reason to just get it going.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
it is what it is.
Expect surprises. Let's just be honest. We're talking about a site that is older than anybody in this room. We don't know what occurred in the 1920s or 1930s. So let's just be honest with each other. Could you find an extra underground storage tank? Yes, you could. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's just going to be perfect. I'm just being straight with you, as I always will be.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Certainly with this site, we're used to surprises.
I understand, ma'am.
Appreciate your time. Very
Yeah,
informative.
Thank you.
May I leave?
Yes.
I'm not trying to hurry. I'm here to answer any
Absolutely.
questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Tom's a pretty smart guy, even though he's a Baden grad, but we'll allow it.
The Minery name would be Hamilton.
Well, I would make a motion that we proceed to vote on ordinance number 2023-28 as an emergency measure to be read one time only and to waive the 30 days to enactment.
Sure, so just to do it the right way, why don't we first pass a motion to waive the charter provisions for second readings and effective dates on emergencies specific to ordinance number 2023-28.
Okay.
think
I
that's
thought
what
that's what I
thought you were
I did it
incorporating
right
it
that
into-
time. I thought I did it right.
think
that
she
time.
did, and I'll
Incorporating
second it.
into also approving it.
Right.
So-
So we have to make a motion
Yep,
to.
we'll waive the charter provisions,
Waive
then
the
we'll
charter
separately
provision.
vote on
Okay.
actually approving the ordinance itself.
Okay. Do I need to repeat it?
I think you so moved.
Okay.
She said it was. I thought it was pretty good.
She did it perfectly.
You should make her repeat it.
That's right.
I'll second it. Ms. Kank, will you please call the roll on the emergency aspect of this ordinance?
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muterspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
And next, you can vote to approve it as a first reading emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
When you're ready, can you call the roll, Ms. Kank?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muterspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
The 11th item is ordinance number 2023-29, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to grant an access and utility easement to James O. Pearson for 3 parcels adjacent to 3456 Cincinnati Dayton Road and declaring an emergency. And if you want, I can just go
Yeah,
ahead
council,
and,
this is something that just came up in the last 24 hours. It's a kind of an issue and why we're bringing this forward now as an emergency.
Yeah, so the easiest way to understand this one is probably to look at the Exhibit A that's attached to the ordinance. So what the basic fact pattern here, and you may start seeing this a few more times, you actually saw it once before, is there's a little strip of property that the city owns between the Pearson property and the actual road itself. So if you look at it, it's basically Dixie Highway. Back in 2003, I think it was, we had Dixie Highway and it was widened. The road at that time was right-of-way. When they widened it, they acquired additional property to widen the road. But for whatever reason, the enabling legislation didn't explicitly say in form sufficient to current lenders council for this transaction I'll tell you about, that it was actually right-of-way. We all knew back then, we all know now, the purpose of that additional strip, that red triangle's right there, is for access. But the original language didn't say it that way. Conceptually, it could be property that's owned by the city in fee, meaning we own it and we can exclude other people from it. So the property's up for sale. They're looking to close on it next week before council meets again. Their lenders council looked at it and said, we'd just like that cleaned up a little bit. So in the interest of trying to be business friendly, we brought it to you as an emergency on behalf of, I think it's the broker, Lenny Robinson, wanted to approach us about this. And so hence why we're doing that. So this would just give Paul the ability to actually enter in to basically negotiate an access easement What that would give them is both, the drives that are on there, they're going to stay the same. Nothing's changing about it. So the ingress and egress points will still be the same. Whatever utilities are located right now on the property in that area, that's still going to be that same. It's really to just paper this so that the transaction can go through and there's no ambiguity as to who has access to that property.
I'm amazed that they did not do that when they changed that, when they altered it.
Yeah, you know, and honestly, I don't think this is going to be the first time you're going to see this. Actually, it's the second time. There was also a similar situation you guys had. I think it was with a
Down on First
auto
Avenue.
repair shop. Exactly. So
Very similar to First Avenue.
we may take some steps to fix that globally, so that every time a property owner wants to sell and they've got lenders council come through and goes, hey, wait a minute, this looks like it's landlocked. Let's try to fix that so we don't have to always be talking about this. But for now, we're going to fix that so it can sell.
Any questions?
We need a motion.
Do we have a motion? Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Ms. Gann, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mueterspaugh?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Okay, that concludes our legislation items this evening. Do we have any new business items? I know I had a couple, but I also think Mr. Farrell
My
might.
eyes bothering.
Okay, I can start if you want. A couple things. First of all, I believe we have a transit study that we approved. That's accurate, right, Paul?
The transit study?
Yeah. Didn't
We
we?
did, yeah, I don't know what our staff.
Okay, is that going to include
I'd have to
things
get-
like the bus route and Amanda? I mean, because
Let me
absolutely
get-
that's
I'd have
something
to
it
get with
should.
Matt on it.
Okay, I want to make sure we're looking at all our bus routes. Of course, I'm concerned about Amanda and their transportation, and I want to just clarify that. And in that same vein, I was wondering if we had any movement on the sewer issues with Amanda. I know we said we were going to focus on that out of a Board of Health meeting, look into it further. It's something that's been neglected for a long time, and it was something I asked to be pushed forward. I want to make sure we're still looking at that and finding what the best route forward is on that one and touch base on that again.
I will get with Public Works.
Okay, great, sounds
Yeah,
good.
We haven't done anything in the last month on it, as far as that is concerned. They did start roughing the roads down there for the pavement improvements down there.
Okay,
So that's a step in the right direction, yes.
great. You have,
I'll go next. I'm gonna throw out a few facts, so bear with me. So Miami Park is what I want to bring up. Now that we're sort of investing back into the parks, obviously there's neglected parks all over the city. So I'm looking at Miami Park, and I'm looking at sort of the residential real estate market in that area. And I have a house that closes tomorrow on Harrison Street for $230,000. The previous record in that neighborhood before was $195,000. So we're now up in that neighborhood to the mid 200 price point. When you start getting up to that price point, you can look at new construction. Right now, there are 12 listings in the Middletown market from 225 to 285. Every single one of them is under contract. You guys may have saw, but recently Redfin named Middletown as the #1 fastest growing city as far as people moving to it. How are we going to continue to grow? Not all growth is good, but how are we going to continue to grow if we don't have places for people to live? Of those 12 houses that are under contract at that price point, 9 of them went under contract within 1 week. So we have this gigantic housing crisis across the United States. So I look at Middletown as a whole. What is Middletown doing? So we're not Liberty Township, we're not Mason, where we have all this free land, but we do have parks that unfortunately are not being used because we don't have the money to invest in them. Another reason to look at this, I think, is you're taking, unfortunately, when you talk about numbers, a park tends to be a liability when it's just on the books, and you can turn it into an asset. We already have the infrastructure there, the roads are already there, those types of things. It's right across the street from McKinley. There's 10 houses there on McKinley. At least 5 of them are rental houses. I went and did that research. It's also connected to the business part of Central Avenue, where you have the different restaurants, bars, that type of thing. So theoretically, people moving into that neighborhood would sort of then support those businesses. You have a new construction home on Weber, which they sort of did a pilot program like this many years ago, the Maple Park area, and I consider this neighborhood to it sells a little bit higher. So you have a new construction house right there that just got built under contract for $275. So studies would show you could even push the price point higher than $275, which then once you start doing that, it makes the value of the area go up, and then investors start to sell off their investments, and then you're going to have single family new first-time home buyers, established families here. They're going to move into the neighborhood, which I think is something we all want. So I'm not saying that we turn this into a new construction neighborhood, but I do want to bring up the option to talk to the neighborhood, talk to the Parks Department, because I'd rather make 5, 6, 7 parks, whatever it is, really nice, rather than replace a swing set here and replace a swing set there on parks that are not being used. We have Sunset Park, which is one of our premier parks just a couple blocks away, so I think that's another reason it makes sense. I don't have kids, so I don't want to be the person that's tries to tell everybody what's best for their kids and their parks and that type of thing. But I do think this is something that even multiple Parks Board's members have brought up to me. How can we use this land? How can we use it to improve Middletown as a whole? So just wanted to see if staff, if council has any thoughts on all this, and I've got more information, but just wanted to kick off the conversation there.
I will say, from a Parks Board perspective, it's something that's been brought up, but not something that any of the Park Board members have necessarily ever in a meeting said that they were interested in doing, i.e. losing a park to real estate opportunities. And there have been multiple parks that have been discussed as, you know, what if scenarios, but none that anyone have really, in a Park Board meeting, said that they thought we should abandon for real estate. Also, that being said, our Parks Master Plan that was only completed maybe a year and a half ago, something like that, indicated that they didn't think that we should look to abandon any of our existing parks, even given all of the money that we were looking to have to spend to bring them up to code. So I struggle a little bit with that. Certainly being a Park Board member and being familiar with the plan that we were presented with. I'll also say, being a part of that neighborhood in the business community, I often have people who walk down the street to use the park with their kids, whether they're, you know, employees or you know, people who are hanging out at the restaurant, who will walk their kids down and enjoy Miami Park. So I see it as a complement to that business neighborhood and that neighborhood in general, as opposed to something that people don't use. So just, I mean, that's just my experiential feedback on that. We've talked a lot about the available infill sites throughout the city, and we have a lot of opportunity through infill for new home construction. We've got sites that have not been designated yet for new construction that we've still, you know, we're still talking about the old Vale site and what could be developed there, and we're still talking about the Lincoln School site and what could be developed there. So I'd like to flesh out those conversations before we talk about necessarily utilizing existing parks for those opportunities.
I would say the one thing we sort of have, I think at this time, the Vale site, we did put out to RFP and RFQ, and nobody answered on that. So I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying at all, because everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but it doesn't seem like there's much of a market for that, which hopefully, obviously, we want to get to the point of where there is a market for that.
I think the more work we do in that neighborhood, the more desirable that site becomes. And again, with the infill program, that's a, you know, and the new historic designation for that neighborhood, I think that opens up a lot of opportunities. So I think, you know, at least for me, speaking for myself, I'd rather focus on the opportunities that we already have rather than creating new opportunities with existing parks.
One of the things I hate to even bring up, because every time there's a D.R. Horton or something like this comes up, being a realtor now sucks, because it's like they automatically say, well, you just want to sell houses. I said, it's not.
Yeah, I would
hate bringing up
automatically
anything.
say that I would not sell any of these houses
Yeah.
right off the bat.
But the thing is I love the parks. We just talked about it, and I don't have the park knowledge that you do. I just don't, Monica. You know more about it than I do, being on the board and really being on council before. But the three things that people come to me for the most about problems with the city is, number one, crime, number two, housing, and number three, things to do in Middletown. So I think, don't want to speak for you, is that what you're trying to do is solve at least one of them with that issue, is what it sounds like to me. It's just unfortunate that it's parks and people love the parks. So, but I see exactly what you're saying. It's land, it's right there. I get it.
I think there's a couple of things. One, the Parks Master Plan, when we had it created, obviously one of the tenets of the Parks Master Plan isn't necessarily to look at home value, right? The Parks Master Plan is looking at parks. And so I think it's hard to say, okay, it said not to remove any parks, but maybe it's looking from a little bit of a skewed lens and maybe not taking into account overall home values. I'm not saying it's not relevant or worth looking at, but I don't know that it specifically focuses on the overall value of homes in the area. So one thing to consider.
Parks do add to the point value
Of course.
homes in a neighborhood. And so each of these little pocket parks adds to the walkability, the points that are
Correct.
received by those homes in their rating system. So I
Right, which is why a real
do think that
estate
they
agent.
considered that.
You can't
Can I finish?
quantify that, though. Yeah.
Okay, I want to finish. So real estate is going to look at parks as helping its value. Parks aren't necessarily, the Parks Master Plan isn't necessarily going to have looked at real estate value as to help the parks. So I don't know how much of that was taken into account. Like, I don't know when they did it if they thought about this or not. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that, of course, parks help real estate values and help quality of life. There's no question about that. And I know what I think is, I feel like we brought this up at one point in time, and
When we were
feel like
talking to the people who put together the Parks Master Plan.
maybe, like this park specifically, and I feel like there was a
This and
request.
Goddell.
Yeah, I feel like there was a request to speak with the neighborhood specifically that it impacted about it. I could be wrong, but my request would be if we can talk to specifically owner occupied in that area, if they have an appetite for it. And I know that's easier said than done. just find all the people who live in their houses and own them in the area. But to me, I would like their feedback on it, because they may say, yeah, we would like our property values to increase, and we're willing to give up having a park that close, and we'll use Sunset all day long. Or they also may say, you know what, I like how it is. I'm good with where my property values are, which I know Middletown, and it's possible that's the route they might go. But I would want their input personally on it.
Yeah, I was having similar thoughts. I'm sitting here thinking, like, how do we quantify, like, my notes were saying, how much is it used or not used? Is there nuisance issues? And I don't know how we quantify, I don't know how to quantify that, but I don't mind the conversation. I do feel like, to your point, Rodney, it's like two competing good things. Like, parks are good and we need those, and we've known for 2 decades that we need new housing, and it's like, it's this push and pull of what's the best use of land. So I don't mind you bringing it up, and I don't mind having the conversation. If staff has any thoughts on how we can actually engage and get some feedback on the usage in the neighborhood, I know that's a hard ask.
You can. Staff's kicked it around a little bit, and not to throw fuel on the fire, but we also looked at Gladell Park, which is the park that is bordered by Sherman and Grand, Florence and Orchard. And actually, if you pull that up, that's broken up into 9 parcels. It's interesting that, wonder why that's broken up into 9 parcels. And then to address the infill lot situation, it looks like something will be being brought to Planning Commission in May on the infill lot program.
Wasn't that brought up with, you might know better than anybody, the Gardner Park off Catalpa? Because over off Gardner Park, you have just a small playground, and then it's massive land going up to the factories, and right back there, I forget the name of the street back there, but it's huge plots. And they used to have softball diamonds, and they've kind of grown over, and that's what, I thought that was brought up one time. I could be wrong. Maybe it was Gladell, because I know Gladell has limited access. You can't get cars in there, and, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
I know that Gladell and Miami Park were the most recently discussed, certainly here at council and through our discussions and outside discussions. And I would be happy to, at the next park board meeting, in new business there, see if anyone has any really strong feelings and bring that back to council. Like I said, specific to those two parks, or specific to Miami Park, I don't have any feedback to provide from them because that's not something that we've really delved into, or that I've gotten opinions from more than just a casual conversation with park board members outside of park board meetings, where obviously it comes up for discussion because it's something that people are talking about. So I'd be happy to try to get some more feedback on those parks and bring up Gardner as well. I haven't heard any desire about Gardner in recent time, but.
No, I don't think it's recent. I'm talking years ago.
Yeah.
For like 4 councils ago or something, so it was a long time ago.
And that's why I'm not saying that we do this, but we have a problem that is potentially, we have the impact to be able to help that problem. And yes, if we take away a park, that's not good, but it could potentially help a lot of people in that neighborhood with their property value. So I do think it's important to talk to park board and to the community, like the mayor said, because these are the people that live there. This is what's going to be impacting them. So ultimately, their voice is what matters.
Hopefully our new neighborhood organizational structure can help us address these issues even better too.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I appreciate the interest in ways that we can improve property values and improve our neighborhoods and you know, outside the box thinking about how we can do that. And I think there are probably a lot of other different ways that we can help that neighborhood and help those homeowners and improve those values. I think.
Yeah, I just know once I flipped a house in that neighborhood on Schaefer Street 3 years ago, and it was the neighborhood record, and it sold for $140. And now that neighborhood's up to $230. It's becoming a really desirable neighborhood. And if we start pushing the price points in the mid 200s, you're going to get rid of not all, but you're going to get rid of a lot of those rental homes, which I know is another one of our goals that this would potentially, if you start having new construction up to the 300 price point, that's going to push all the other houses in the neighborhood up $20,000-$30,000, and that's another problem that we have the opportunity to fix by doing just this little, whether it's 8, 10, 12 houses, whatever it is, I don't know that number, but it does impact. It's not just this little block here, it's this whole grand scheme of the ecosystem.
But what it sounds like is even without new construction, that neighborhood is such a gem. I mean, moving back here from living in downtown Cincinnati, it reminds me a lot of Hyde Park. The construction and the homes and the 100%. Way that neighborhood is designed reminds me so much of so many neighborhoods in what is thought to be a higher value neighborhood in Cincinnati. And I think that it has a lot of potential regardless of what happens with Miami Park.
Well, and I think that's something to keep in mind. You make a great point. So every house in that neighborhood, I've flipped houses in that neighborhood left and right. They all have old galvanized pipes. They don't have modern HVAC. The windows are, you've got some homes, the house on Harrison that we flipped, I mean, it's got 20-something windows, so you've got $12,000, $13,000 in windows. It's not like that for a normal house. So if you can push the price point a little bit higher, all those houses that have just been sitting for 20, 30 years, you're going to start to see those the neighborhood's probably $30,000 to $40,000 away from just popping to being Hyde Park. And I know that if new construction did go in there, that it would get us to that point, in my opinion.
Maybe cleaning up the alleyways and doing some other things in that neighborhood could also help.
Potentially. That wouldn't hurt.
There are a lot of things that can help push a neighborhood like that. So just throwing that out there.
Okay. Did you fall asleep over there?
No.
Okay. I'm done.
If you could at least bring it up at Park Board, that would be
Sure.
great to get some feedback from them, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah.
That'd be a good start.
Start.
And if there's some way to reach out to the residents, I'm not sure what the best.
I feel like we're asking a lot
Al
of
can
staff
go
to try
door
that.
knock the
My
neighborhood.
advice is let's go to the park board first, discuss with the park board, and then I will get with our park staff and the park board people, and let's see how we
there's some
approach that
outreach.
next. We certainly want to do something like, have a meeting in whatever particular area and make sure they know it's to get input. We're not making any decisions, and please, everybody, this is just being discussed. We're not making any
As
decisions.
the weather gets nice, maybe we could have a meeting at Miami Park and invite all of the neighbors.
Certainly, that'd
The
be a
legal
great
team
idea.
loves when we have meetings out in unregulated public space.
The legal team's happy to go on field trips whenever available.
Great. Okay, any other new business items this evening? Okay, then we have a request to move to executive session under the authority of ORC 121.22G2 to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or for the sale of property at competitive bidding if premature disclosure of information would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage. Do we have a motion to move to executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Mueller-Stahl?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Okay, with that, we will move to executive session. Our next meeting is the 18th of April at 5:30 PM here in council chambers. I do not expect us to be taking any action that I'm aware of after this executive session, so we will just open back up only to close it. So until April 18th, blue skies over Middletown.